Hey everyone, I'm Rosemarie from The Unfinished Lesson, and this is the last part in a 5-part series on how to create a multifaceted practice strategies approach in our studio using practice pouches. So if you haven't watched those previous videos, they are short. Please make sure that you watch them. The links are below. In part 1, we talk about why practice pouches, but also what to include in them. In part 2, we looked at where to get supplies. It doesn't have to be as expensive as you might think. Part 3 was on getting parent and student buy-in, because if we don't have that, they won't use them. Part 4 was how are our students getting these? And if you're confused by that, absolutely go back and watch that video. There's a few different ways that you can do this. And in our last video, today's video, we are looking at how to bump up the fun factor. So in our getting student buy-in and parent buy-in, this is one of the things we needed to think about. We need to increase the fun factor. And the reason we need to increase the fun factor is practice, especially on piano and in certain other instruments, can be very, very solitary. Depending on the practice situation, it can end up being that it's just a child by themselves. They hear everything going on around them, and it's like, So we need to combat that. We need to find a way to make it more interesting so that they want to stay at the piano. They're interested in that, they'll keep going, right? And continue to progress. So how do we do this? Well, by bumping up the fun factor, it can be something as simple as a game. So if students come to you or you go to them, you could lend them a game. If you're online, you could have access to it maybe in a place that they can't download it, but they can view it. You can use different items. So you can use fun little erasers for different things. I've used almost everything, from students practicing outdoors when the weather was quite hot to using their Halloween candy. The kids thought this was great. They felt like they were kind of cheating a little because they got to have candy after practice. November was always a fun one for my students because of that. But whatever it is that you're using, just think about how can you make it a little bit more of a game, or how can you make it, for certain students, they thrive on competition. So how can you make it a little bit of a fun competition? Whatever it is that you choose, kind of think about what would make this a little bit more interesting. Rather than just playing something, what is something that can be done that your student will think, oh, okay, this is actually a little bit more interesting. There's lots of articles on the website, and I will have a link for that below. But one of the things I did in my studio, and I've talked about this in a previous video, was using 5 ways practice strategies. This was PDFs that I created. I created 12 PDFs, so it lasted us a year. And it was just each practice page focused on one particular household item, things that a lot of households had. So everything from the little notebook that I had students have in their practice pouch that I had provided for them, straight through to sponges that they could use outside and sidewalk chalk, to Halloween candy and all sorts of other things. You might say, what if a family doesn't celebrate Halloween? I talked to the parent beforehand and just said, hey, this is what's happening in the studio. It doesn't have to be Halloween candy, but would you be willing to purchase some candy that your child could use this week? It doesn't have to be Halloween theme. This is just something that could be fun for them, right? A different way of practicing this month. And then whatever the parent says, just accept that that's their answer. So hopefully they say yes. And if they don't, then don't worry about it. I will have a link for that below. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. What are some of the things that you do in your studio to make practice fun for students? just, in terms of items that you use. And yeah, by the way, before you go on with the rest of your day, please make sure, write down what are some of the fun ways that you're going to use the practice pouch in your studio. That's your task for today. All right, have an incredible day, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.